Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to a hypnosis session that is all about inner peace. And I was working with a client that felt that a lot of things that would happen in their life would make them feel either unsafe or triggered in some way. And their belief was that they didn't have enough of that inner peace to be resilient enough to those things. So actually what you're going to hear in this hypnosis session are two different metaphors. A metaphor to represent inner peace, which is going from a pond to a reservoir. A metaphor for accessing resources, which is a well that kind of goes down and brings back whatever appropriate resource is going to be useful. There is an element of the natural neuroplasticity that happens when you replay something in your mind, but if you do it in a particular way, that can actually increase the feeling of optionality, but also a belief that you can do things differently, and also utilizing curiosity as a way to change previously held beliefs, associations, or evaluations that are just not productive. And I think a lot of people in life experience false positives. A false positive anxiety is worrying about this bad thing that's going to happen and then it never happens. In this case, the client was feeling affected by feeling unsafe in certain situations, even though nothing unsafe actually happened. And that tells us that the threshold is too low. Too many things are triggering the alarm when they don't need to, and therefore we need to increase the threshold. And all of these things are taking place in this particular session. In order to get the best of this session, I would encourage you to find a nice comfortable place. But if you are interested in working with me directly or accessing some of the free resources that I have, just check out the description or the show notes first before listening to this session, and then you can do that. And when it comes to listening to the session, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in that resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation. And as you exhale, just make yourself comfortable and allow your eyelids to close. That's it. And as your eyes closed, notice how much easier it is to focus on the sound of my voice. Breathing in that relaxation and exhaling that tension. Each breath taking you deeper and deeper to that place where you've been many times before. A place where windows open within your mind to create wonderful, positive changes. Changes that give you more of what you want and less of what you don't. So as you find yourself in that comfortable position, take another slow, easy breath in and allow it to be released gently. And noticing just with each and every breath, you're giving permission to your body, your mind, and your emotions to just let go. And perhaps your body already knows how to settle to that place, how to find the position that feels just right. And as your body settles, your mind can begin to follow, slowing down, just like a leaf drifting onto still water. And with every exhale, you can imagine a little more stillness spreading through you. And I want you to think of a place in nature with a huge lake. Maybe in Austria, maybe somewhere else. Maybe surrounded by trees or mountains or hills. And when you can think of that place, just let me know by nodding your head. And as you stare out onto the surface of the lake, I want you to evaluate any sensations in your body, from the crown of your head down to your toes. Just feel as if each breath is a ripple fading on a quiet pond, releasing tension with every outward breath. And I want you to imagine somewhere near that lake is indeed a shallow pond. And it becomes humorous because the shallow pond is so small and the lake is so large. The contrast almost becomes absurd at the difference between this small pond. And I want you to imagine looking at that shallow pond. Perhaps it's a hot day. See the water rippling in the wind, and how small waves are stirred by the slightest movement. If you were to even dip a finger into that small, shallow pond, every part of the surface would be affected. And perhaps you could imagine that pond inside you, representing times in your life where inner peace has felt shallow. That perhaps even small situations, a minor disturbance, could really affect your mood, your feelings, your inner peace, perhaps for an hour or even more. But I want you to get a sense that today we're creating a new thought. I want you to get a sense of what if that small pond is just a representation based on you not accessing all of the resources available to you. And I want you to imagine almost like you can teleport the pond into that lake. And I want you to imagine the lake has so much water, it also provides water to nearby cities and towns. It has so much that it can give to others and still never run dry. And I want you to imagine that feeling of abundance that almost no water is turning into millions of gallons. And each gallon of water represents the inner peace within you. I want you to get a sense that you now have that huge lake, that reservoir of inner peace. I want you to get a sense that knowing you have all of that inner peace, isn't it the case that it would take more for you to feel unsettled. And that doesn't mean that a lake can't be disturbed, but a pebble can't disturb the lake. Even a boat going across the surface can't disturb it. It would take a major storm to disrupt or unsettle that huge lake, that reservoir to nearby cities. And I want you to get a sense that that feels right. I want you to get a sense that small things shouldn't bother you, and big things should. Because if you are in a situation where you are genuinely unsafe, you would want your inner peace to be disrupted so that you do whatever it takes to feel safe again. The only thing to avoid is having those minor things affect and disrupt your overall inner peace. So I want you to feel that that shallow pond has now become a vast, deep reservoir of peace. And the deeper it becomes, just by the laws of physics and nature, the harder it is for any surface ripples to disturb it. On the surface, a breeze might pass, but deep below, it remains calm, still, and unwavering. And then just imagine an old-fashioned well next to that lake. It might be that hundreds of years ago there were no pipes to take water from the lake to the cities, and perhaps local villagers would walk to the well and have the bucket go down on a rope, pick up the water and take it back. I want you to get a sense that in the past your well was dry, or at least very shallow. But I want you to feel that that well now is abundantly full. But this well doesn't just represent inner peace. It represents any resources that you may need. And you are free to dip into that well whenever you choose. If something feels like it's changed, you might dip into that well and bring back adaptability. Or you might dip into the well and bring creativity to help solve a problem, or resilience, or fortitude, or confidence, or a sense of calm. I want you to get a sense that this well is a well that has access to every resource that you've ever experienced, if you've experienced it even once. Let's say courage. You could bring back courage from your past into your present and deploy it whenever it is useful. And I want you to feel that the combination of this large lake and this well of resourcefulness, something else begins to shift. And perhaps that's the way your mind decides what feels unsafe. In the past, there may have been moments where something small, something insignificant, triggered that alarm inside you. An alert that said, you're not safe. Even though later you realized that nothing dangerous and no risks were ever really there. But from this point forward, your inner mind begins to raise that threshold, like adjusting a finely tuned instrument. So now it only plays its warning note when there is real danger, the equivalent of a storm above the lake. Every other time, it simply remains calm, watchful, and at peace. And notice where in your body that peace feels like it exists. If you were to have that reservoir, that lake within you. Maybe your chest, your gut, or somewhere else. Just get a feeling of where it exists and feel it's so much larger and deeper and more abundant than it ever was before. And if there ever is a moment where you do feel that flicker of unsafety, you can pause and imagine something powerful. You can use the power of your mind to rewind it and imagine how you would handle this same situation with all of the resources that you would need from the well and all of the inner peace from that lake. And you can picture that version of you, calm, grounded, prepared, acting with confidence, thinking clearly, and responding wisely. Because that's why we replay things in our mind anyway. It isn't to change the past, it's to influence how we feel in a similar situation in the future. And the more you do it, the more it will naturally happen all by itself. And each time you do this, consciously or unconsciously, your brain rewires, making it easier to feel the same resourcefulness automatically the very next time something similar happens. And I want you to think of the tone of voice that inner dialogue would have if it was really curious. I want you to get a feeling that what if that moment when that feeling of unsafety appears, instead of tension, you feel curious. Imagine bringing up curiosity from your well now. And that curiosity might ask, what am I assuming here? What must I believe in order to feel this way? What else could this mean? And if something isn't useful, maybe that same curiosity says, what would be a more useful belief, evaluation, or association in this moment? And allow that curiosity also to rewire. And as you question, you begin to replace the old pattern with something far more helpful, more empowering, more in line with the calm, deep lake of peace within you. So let's try this out just within your imagination. Think of something recently that made you feel unsafe, but imagine it happening 3 or 4 weeks in the future. Imagine that version of you in that same situation that once would have triggered that unease. But now watch as you see that version of you handling it differently, with more composure, more calmness, more confidence, perhaps even a fearless look in your eye. And that higher threshold filtering only what matters because you don't feel safe. Only when the threshold has been surpassed, you now do feel safe whenever the threshold is not met. And most things won't meet your threshold. So see that version of you feeling confident and calm, completely at ease, and allow that curiosity to guide your thoughts, because there might be even more room for improvement. See yourself looking resourceful and handling whatever the situation is in a confident way, without the need of conflict, and seeing that version of you immune from whatever the response is of someone else. Whether they agree or don't agree with your words is immaterial. You did what you needed to do to help move a situation forward. And then step into that future version of you feeling empowered, resourceful, with that deep reservoir of inner peace. And notice the difference in how you feel. And get a sense that this feels like it will become your default pattern. that rather than things making you feel unsafe, you will assume safety unless there is irrefutable evidence that you are unsafe, and only then you will handle it differently. I want you to connect with this new way of being and just get a sense that certain things are now working with you. I want you to get a sense that that shallow pond of inner peace is now a deep lake. You have access to a well that you can recall any resource whenever you need it. You have the ability to replay things that do make you feel unsafe until they no longer do that anymore. And you have the ability of using curiosity to challenge any underlying belief systems, associations, or evaluations to now give you the ability to think things differently. As you connect with all of these changes, it's time to leave that lake and return to the present. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes, connect and calibrate into the here and the now. That's it. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.